Good evening, folks. Welcome back to the Legacy Premier League. My name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes, and we have another website owner here in the book. Bryant Cook, hello, how are you this evening?
Great, Phil. I'm looking forward to watching some Legacy.
Oh, me too. And I'm looking forward to playing some Legacy later, as I know you are as well. So we are going into round 3 now. We are about to see a Delver versus Dredge matchup. Andrea Mengucci versus Jarvis Yu. Just kind of catching you up on what's happened tonight. Previously, we had Mengucci versus Cyrus Corman-Gill, and Mengucci managed to pull that one out. And then we just saw Emma Handy versus Jarvis Yu, and Jarvis Yu's Ley Lines of the Void really tore up the Dredge mirror. So we're going to be looking at perhaps a more interactive match than our last round. We saw the last round absolutely being dominated by a couple of sideboard cards and sort of the interplay between them. We got some back and forth in game 1 in a board stall in the Dredge mirror. All right.
To ask you about that last match, what did you think of Emma boarding out the ley lines for Game 3?
I have played very little of the Dredge mirror. I tried to play Dredge for like a week and a half and did like 10 leagues with it and did terribly in all of them. But what I learned about the Dredge mirror is that it's often decided in the first couple of turns, sometimes even before the game begins. And I think having critical, powerful plays in the first few turns is what sets you up for success. So I don't like the strategy of trying to like strand your opponent's copies of like enchantment removal in order to try to gain an edge that way. I think it's worth being 5% slower to have that I win button.
Fair. Blair, a pretty good comment that I'm chuckling about. Those ones that only load correctly in IE4 or lower.
Hey, my website's working correctly. Never mind the fact that it died over the weekend because I wasn't paying attention to it.
And sometimes.
All right, so let's take a look at what we've actually got going on here. We should get some opening hands coming up momentarily here. And an amazing animation. Excellent work on the back end on Rog and Julian. Super impressed here. All right, so taking a look at these hands, what are your initial thoughts, Bryant?
Andrea's just isn't up. While Tarmogoyf is nice as a blocker, Andrea isn't really interacting meaningfully, which is why we're seeing him mulligan. This is about as good as you get from Andrea's side. Surgical extraction in your deck, I don't think that you can ask for a better 6-card hand here. The question is, what do you put on the bottom? I don't know if Lightning Bolt's actually that good against Dredge.
I mean, the thing that a lightning bolt can do is kill one of your own creatures to remove bridge from below. That's sort of its utility in the matchup. But a lot of Mengucci's creatures are not going to die to his own lightning bolt. So yeah, that's the card that I'd be looking to ship away.
I just put the value on having double counterspell a lot than anything else. And I think here we're seeing Jarvis do the old end step, put my Dredger in the graveyard to avoid counterspell, which I actually like quite a bit.
Oh yeah, especially since he has a pair of Cephalid Colosseums that he can use to loot through his graveyard. As long as he gets something in there, he's going to have the ability to really do powerful things.
I agree. It was an expert play by Jarvis. I also agree with Andrea slamming the Tarmogoyf on turn 2. If there's an advantage bar right now, I'd probably put it on 80% Jarvis at the moment.
I think that probably sounds fair. So there's a Force of Will and there's a Spell Pierce. And Mengucci is going to be asking the question, as silly as like, do I need to Force of Will this Lotus Petal to prevent something really ridiculous from happening? Because if it resolves and a Cephalid Coliseum is around the corner, you know, bad things happen. What's our graveyard count at right now? We are at 6 in graveyard. So the Lotus Petal sacrificing would be the 7th to turn on Threshold.
This Andrea's seat puddle here.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? You just broke up a little bit for me.
If you're in Andrea's seat right here, would you force a will a Lotus Petal? I'm not sure if I would. I don't know if it's actually that good.
I'm not sure that I would either, but there's very real thought to it here. I think my thought from his position would probably be I will just force of will the faithless looting or breakthrough that comes afterwards. I'm not sure that I would have Cephalid Coliseum on the top of my mind as the thing to be playing around this early in the game.
Lotus Petal still on the stack?
Oh, technical difficulties. That means that we get to talk about fun legacy things. All right. So, do
Will
you
I
have
be seeing you in Prussia, Pennsylvania this weekend?
I don't think so. What's going on there?
Team constructed Star City Games Open.
Ooh,
Be in the legacy seat.
that sounds
Team.
excellent. I just did traveling for GP Atlanta, so I don't think I have another trip in me right now. I'll probably play like the Legacy Challenge or at least do some recording over the weekend though. Our Lotus Petal has resolved.
Woo woo.
Looks like we're not quite to go time yet. So, any cards from the new set catching your eye for legacy reasons?
Deafening Silence. I did see that our good friend Dukes on Twitch posted a league to YouTube today featuring Deafening Silence in. Because I personally don't think it's better than Chalice of the Void in that deck if you're looking to beat Storm specifically. I think that Chalice on Zero will do the same thing. More matchups, personally. But I've actually really been enjoying this set for limited. I'm not just a legacy player. I've actually done like 8 drafts in the last 5 days. I've been enjoying the limited format quite a bit.
Yeah, 100% agreed on everything you said about Deafening Silence. I think that is an exceptional card. I think it is a legacy power level card. But something like Chalice of the Void can be boarded in for control matchups as well as combo matchups. And I think that overlap is something that Deafening Silence doesn't have. So
Agreed.
I'm not shoving that card into my D&T deck lists right now. Charming Prince, though. I've been pretty high on that card.
Opinion on the pseudo Termagoyf, the 2-mana gargoyle.
Oh, the Vantris Gargoyle, I think is the name of that one. Peter Vanderham posted a, I think, blue-black Vantris Gargoyle Gurmag Angler deck that he 5-0'd with to just kind of show that that card had real legacy potential. I've gotten a 5-0 with humans featuring Charming Prince. I've gotten a couple of 4-1s with D&T having it. I've seen people messing around with some other cards. I haven't been impressed with Once Upon a Time. Have you played against that card much yet?
I haven't played any legacy since the challenge, but I didn't see any Eldraine cards in there.
Yeah. I think that card is the right power level for Legacy and that it's interesting in turbo depths, but I'm not always sure that it's going to just be better than some other tutor that you might be playing in those slots instead.
You don't
The
think it's better than Sylvan Scrying?
I definitely think that it's clearly better in the first couple, in the first turn cycle of the game. Getting that first one for free is huge. But
I
end
think
game,
I
when you
have a
top
hot
deck
take
it,
for you here. The turbo depths list, not the medium depths list, but actual turbo, is the better depths variant at the moment due to Pithing Needle. So let's focus on
all right, yeah.
4-color Delver versus Dredge.
So it looks like we're
20.
seeing a Cephalid Coliseum activation here. So we'll see how crazy Jarvis can go here. So it looks like we're getting a bridge into the graveyard. There's Cabal Therapy, a Hogaak. there's some goodies here.
I just want to catch up. Am I correctly dredged once and then missed on for a second dredge, or is that what happened? Understanding how Jarvis would have gotten and
I believe that is correct. All right, folks, you may see Bryant Cook temporarily blip out or something like that. Don't worry, we're messing with some technical things on our end. In the meantime, we see Mengucci pondering. And I'm pondering what he's pondering, although I don't see the cards that he is pondering yet. If he was to drag that over his hand, we could see it. But I don't get to see that right now. Presumably, we're looking for more counter magic, but it looks like we're going to end up with a land here. That'll enable the red spells like Lightning Bolt and Renin 6 from his deck. Yes, I have targeted Bryant Cook with Flicker Wisp. He'll come back at the beginning of the next end step, in all likelihood. All right, so now we see an Icarid returning from Graveyard, as well as a whopping 2 Narcomoebas off of this Dredge. So now we get to see the slow Dredge transitioning into the mid-game power level of this deck. And even if Jarvis doesn't necessarily cast another spell this game, just the pure resources he can get via dredging, using Icarid, and then just like letting it die and creating a few zombies every turn will probably very quickly outpace this Tarmogoyf. So as we can see here, a Cabal Therapy with 3 Bridge from Below triggers is going to warrant a concession. So, as we go and move on to the sideboarding here, we've got a handful of considerations. Ooh, let's mute that. Sorry, I'm pulling up the Cardboard.Live extension to just confirm some things while I'm talking here. So on Mengucci's side, obviously the surgical extractions we're going to see here are going to be absolute gas and sort of the key to the strategy to defeat this mid-range deck.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Can chat also hear me?
It looks like I flickered out a Bryant Cook and got a Julian in return. This is unexpected. That's not usually how Flicker Wisp works, but like, we're going to take this.
You flipped the Storm deck into an Elf deck?
I mean, I'll take the Storm deck over the Elf deck,
sideboard.
please.
So yeah,
Go ahead.
I guess Jarvis took the first game. I was just gunned for a second, and then Jarvis probably like run away with it. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, so just catching you up, Jarvis started the game with a hard discard Golgari Grave Troll, and then resolved a Lotus Petal into cracking a Cephalid Coliseum, and ran away with the game in the course of 2 turns.
Aw. I mean, that's what he came here for, right? That's exactly what he wants to do against Diver. I still do believe that Diver has like decent game against Dredge, even though I think a lot of people would disagree with me on that. But it's probably hard to say. It's overall, I definitely like Jarvis' chances, but I think it's not as clear cut as people would maybe make it. So Andrea has a lot of stuff to bring in, right? He's at least 3 surgicals are gonna do some work,
Yeah,
but once
the
again,
surgicals are the things that you're going to like very easily zero in on. But even something like Plague Engineer can be relatively powerful in the right situations. You know, going and stonewalling some Icarids or Narcomoebas or something like that.
what actually, which creature type is Icarid? I would guess it's like a horror, but I wouldn't even know.
I would guess horror as well.
You can probably see it on the card somewhere.
I think it says
or check
horror.
it in the Cardboard.Live overlay. Cardboard.Live will probably tell us for sure. So, what else are we seeing from Jarvis' side? He's taking out 2 Careful Study. I think he already did that against Emma. It looks like his go-to card for sideboarding is taking out. And here we go. Andrea on the play. Andrea is certainly gonna once again be looking for a Diver of Secrets, which she actually hits. So it's kind of interesting. You almost like this is one of the few matchups and situations where I would consider playing the Thoughtseize first, especially if Jarvis goes low, because you might be able to hit a single card that enables whatever Jarvis is trying to do. So in this case, for example, if you lead on the Thoughtseize, you can actually snatch the Lion's Diamond, and
Yeah.
then Jarvis is left with a whole lot of nothing.
So in a matchup like, say, Storm, I think you want to lead on the Delver the vast majority of time, get that pressure going quickly. But here, I think it is more important to try and prevent the first Dredger from hitting the graveyard. And after Jarvis has mulliganed a couple of times, there are going to be relatively few discard outlets, so you may be able to stop the initial Dredger getting in and buy yourself 2, 3, 4 turns to actually set up the rest of your game.
Yeah, LED Dredge gets actually really miserable, right? Well, once it can't do anything, the deck isn't really set up to work that way. You can go to 8-card discard like Mana's that Dredge does outright. But here, uh, so if you lead on Thoughtseize here, you can't really take anything that's really good. I guess you could take the LED.
Well, yeah,
I'm
you would
really
take
looking
the
forward to what
LED.
Andrea does. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably what we are going to see here. He's going to get information. Sort of what's going to matter for Jarvis is whether or not he hits a Dredger in the top 6 or 7 cards here. So he's going to get 2 cards from the looting, 4 cards from the thug, and 1 card from this draw for turn. I think as long as he sees another Dredger somewhere in there, he's going to be relatively safe.
Yeah, it's also going to be interesting because Andrea will probably wasteland the Gemstone Mine next turn and deploy the Delver. And from there, depending on what happens next turn, like the next turn is going to be really, really big for Jarvis. Because there's a world where he hits no Dredgers and then he's almost out of the game from this point. Unless I guess he finds another LED. LED thus far, I guess the card of our match day thus far. I mean, it's present in 3 out of 4 decks. Only Andrea hasn't really managed to find a way to make LED work in Delver.
But it grows the Tarmogoyf. Maybe by multiple. You discard your hand, maybe you discard a Wrenn and 6, a Lightning Bolt, and a Ponder. Bam! Tarmogoyf is huge.
Tarmogoyf combo deck, I'm loving it. Infernal Tutor Crack LED Tarmogoyf. So, oh my god, my light just turned off. Oh, I guess you have to do it like this then. So here we go.
Jarvis is obviously going to
Jarvis?
discard the Dredger, and I'm guessing it's tough as to whether or not you discard the land because you have Wasteland to be thinking about from the Delver deck. Putrid
Yeah.
Imp could allow, he probably wants to keep the Putrid Imp because it is going to allow the recycling of this single Dredger. And Silent Gravestone at the same time shuts off the 3 surgical. So every card in this hand has value. I think that's why we're seeing such a large pause here.
I think Jarvis will eventually discard the gravestone. I would think so because I was gonna say you have to decide whether you want to lose to lose quote unquote to surgical or wasteland. But the thing is, if you decide you lose to surgical and you get wastelanded, then basically you lose to both at that point. If you discard the land and then next turn you can't play your gravestone, then you're losing to both surgical and wasteland. So it's that's exactly the kind of play I would have expected of him. So now if he gets wasteland, he still actually gets to play the game, and he's not in that bad of shape, like from his perspective.
Yeah. So Dredge can beat a surgical. That is something that is totally within their wheelhouse, and that is 100% reasonable. A second surgical is probably lights out.
Yeah, and once you maneuver yourself into a position like Jarvis, you have to mulligan a bunch of times. Actually, hit a really great mulligan to I think it was 4.
Oh,
You
wow.
basically just decide if your opponent has like 2 surgicals, you're definitely gonna lose. That's not the kind of game you wanna win anyway.
I'm really surprised to see no Wasteland on that Gemstone Mine there. Instead, Mengucci has chosen to hold up Pyroblast for a careful study or a breakthrough.
I wonder.
I'm not
I mean,
sure
he
how
actually
I feel about that play, but it is kind of not necessarily next level Jarvis, but if Jarvis has kept to play around Wasteland and then Mengucci is not Wastelanding, then he gets some sort of theoretical value by doing so.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I mean, Jarvis got to play the Faithless Looting and together with the draw step that basically showed him like
Okay,
3
no,
more
no, no.
cards.
I
And then
take it back. I figured out what the line was here. It was holding up the Pyroblast to potentially Pyroblast his own Delver to get rid of bridges if that was a concern.
really? Oh, okay, that's deep. That's really deep. I mean, that's definitely another upside of holding up the Pyroblast, right? You either get to hit the cantrips or remove bridges. I'm just not sure whether you're really winning if you Pyroblast your own diver there. Even like, how many bridges would you need to remove? Like 3? I'm not even sure if I would do it for 2 because you don't really have a good line from here. I guess you could name zombies with the Plague Engineer, but even then, I mean, yeah. I'd love to hear Andrea's thoughts on this at some point. Maybe we can like talk to him at some point in the future. But yeah, who do you think is ahead here? I'm actually not sure. I think it might actually be like leaning towards Jarvis, right? Even though his opening hand was like 4 and he got thought seized, he seems to
I
recover quite
lean
well.
towards Jarvis being ahead, but I don't think he is nearly as far ahead as he was last game at this stage. I think the next turn is going to be very critical. So he has a single dredger in the graveyard right now. He has the Golgari Grave Troll, and if he were to miss on a dredger here, he might just. Well, no, sorry, I take it back. He has a Putrid Imp. I started talking just looking at the graveyard, but he has the Putrid Imp to recycle it. So never mind. Yeah, I think Jarvis is 10% or so ahead.
I mean, there's even a world, but I probably don't want to do that because you would lose a lot of stuff where you can just hardcast your Golgari Thug and then make a Hogaak. But there's no need to do that. But eventually, somewhere down the line, that's a really, really good card in the matchup. Like, what is Andrea going to do about that? I guess block the Plague Engineer, but then it's probably going to come right back on the very next turn.
So I don't know that he'll want to take a line that involves hard casting the Golgari Thug since it's going to like play very hard into a daze, and it'll
I
like
guess
cost him
that's a good trade,
a
right?
life, a land, and potentially a card. But it looks like that's worth it here.
Yeah, I really don't hate it. Like, if it trades for days, that's, I guess, okay.
Yeah, I guess like what else are your lands doing this game if you're just going to continue to dredge forever?
Yeah, the only reason you want to keep it is but yeah, you're never going to draw the third land, right? You're going to keep dredging anyway. So you're never going to flashback looting, actually, because unless you had like a dredge land, but we don't have that in the list here.
Yeah, so the more I think about it, the more I do like that.
I think with Icarid in the mix now, and I mean, the Burchett Imp is also a reasonable clock. It makes it so that it almost keeps up with Diver. And once Icarid becomes a thing and starts making zombies, Andrea's in trouble. Like, yeah, you can get the Tarmogoyf. Actually, Tarmogoyf's really big, right? Should be like a 6-7 or something.
Yeah, we have an artifact in there, so it is, yeah, and an enchantment. It is going to be a big old boy.
You know what Tarmogoyf needs? Tarmogoyf needs flying. Or trample or something.
I think that's called Vantress Gargoyle.
I have no idea what the card does, but I think it's not playable.
Peter Vanderham 5-0'd with it with Gurmag Anglers in Delver. Just
yeah, but Peter like has 5 out of a lot of interesting, but he's actually a really, really interesting source of, or really great source of innovation and legacy. So
yeah,
maybe
whenever I'm looking for something spicy on stream, I just send him a message. I'm like, what are you playing right now? What do you have for me?
What do you think Andrea's thinking about right now? He can either play the Plague Engineer. I'm not sure that does too much. I guess you can name Horror. So, but like Icarid gives him 2 tokens. There's 2 bridges. Now we are actually at a point where killing your own diver might become necessary in the face of Icarid. Actually, what can you remove? He's got Thug, Stinkweed Imp, Hogaak, and he's gonna dredge another 6 next turn. Yeah, he's gonna have enough fodder for the Icarids. Oh, it's gonna be really rough for Andrea.
I don't know what exactly you do with the Plague Engineer if you were to play it this turn. I think this is a play a land, play Tarmogoyf, hold Pyroblast up, be prepared to junk your own Delver if things start to go south. I think the Plague Engineer can be a decent play once the bridges are gone, but with the bridges there, it scares me a little bit to just play out that card.
I wonder if your line is just to hit another Plague Engineer next turn. I mean, Andrea's probably
just
thinking
like
about how
name
am I
a
winning this game.
zombie, get another one, name
Yeah.
zombie again. Good
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. Just because it's one of the few lines that I can see that actually swing the game around for Andrea. Because at that point, Jarvis is quite screwed, right? He can make Hogaak. What does he name? Did he name? No, I think he named Terror, right?
Horror. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The crit gonna come back and kill himself right away. Gotta admire
state-based
the dedication
effects
of Icarus.
for the win. We have a zombie engine now.
Yeah. You're gonna create at least 2 zombies every turn. How do you feel about that? Talk about Liliana, right? This is Liliana ultimate on turn 4.
Yeah, so now the 2 zombies can go and fuel the Hogaak themselves. So
Yeah.
that's neat.
Yeah, and the race is definitely in favor of Jarvis at this point. So Andrea, honestly, what is Andrea looking to turn this around? I'm still maybe brainstorm into double Delver and then try to race, but even that I don't really see. You would need like a lifelink creature or something, and Hogaak as well. Whoa, oof.
It being a
Hammer comes
trampler
down.
here is huge because like Plague Engineer has Death Touch, but if it's just like Death Touches and you take 6 through that, you're probably just going to die.
Yeah, and you still get 2 tokens. Oh yeah, there's a world where Andrea brought in Caracas, I guess, but I'm not even sure if that helps him out all that much because Hogaak gets discarded again. Like Patcherdump is secretly the key card to this game. But Jarvis hitting the Patcherdump was huge. Andrea keeps going. He knows what his plan is. I'm gonna attack you, and maybe there's. I really think he can't really win without a brainstorm at this point. He probably needs to find a brainstorm and then like 2 bolts, and then he's still 1 damage short. This is gonna be really rough. Jarvis actually cracks back here for 10, 12, 14.
He's high-low.
Oh, he's taking 3 bridges out now. Okay, that makes sense. That's enough. That's enough for me to actually.
Why is that happening right now, though? That's what I'm unclear about.
You mean as opposed to during Jarvis' turn because Jarvis could hit like a 4th bridge?
Yeah.
The dredge. Because the Icarid comes back in the upkeep, so that's before he dredges.
Right, but he
I mean, you
can't
could
sacrifice. Oh! I see. Because we have the Plague Engineer on human, or sorry, on
Yeah.
horror. That's what's changing the scenario. Okay. Commentary team has caught up on the onboard play. Got it.
So that's the next remember. Yeah, this I really see no out except for like a miracle triple bolt play, but with the Delver gun, there's probably not going to be anything. So yeah, it looks, at least to me, it looks like Jarvis' plan of catching everybody, not really everybody off guard, right? he just felt he wanted to play a deck that's good against blue decks, so he faced the 1 blue deck that he needed to beat in the league, and it looks like he's actually advancing in first place out of this group. I mean, not calling Andrea dead here, but I'm not seeing it. Another Parablast. I guess you get to take out your
This is something we've seen in the Legacy Premier League before, right? Where someone makes a good deck choice for their pod and just absolutely it will carry you through. I seem to remember a certain Elves player getting paired against a whole bunch of D&T players in a pod last year and just like steamrolling right on through.
Hashtag rigged.
Hashtag rigged.
Yeah. So I guess the next match that's gonna come up is gonna be our loser bracket semi final between not Chavez. Oh god, Chavez is gonna go ahead. We have Emma coming up against Cyrus, and they are gonna face off to see who actually gets to play against Andrea because we got 1 more slot in the winner bracket. So there's gonna be 2 more matches, and 1 person is gonna join Chavez in the winner bracket. The other 2, they're not out of the league. They will fall down to the lower bracket where they will fight survival. Like 1 more match loss knocks them out. But we've seen people go through almost the entire loser bracket and make it all the way to the finals. I think last season, yeah, Jarvis was knocked down into a loser bracket, maybe even during the group stage, and he made it all the way to the finals. So there's definitely like if you've got some stamina and mental energy, then you can pull through and
Yeah,
play the maximum
and
number
people
of
on
matches.
Twitter, they were not in favor of Jarvis, and you know here we are once again, Robo Jarvis just clocking in, doing work.
Yeah, so here we see it. Jarvis moves ahead in first place. Andrea still got one more chance. For the other match, I guess we're also gonna commentate on that. So Cyrus against Emma. I think Emma doesn't feel uncomfortable playing against A&T. It's just for me, I really think that Ad Nauseam Storm is significantly ahead against Dredge.
I
So
do as
I'm really looking
well.
forward to seeing that. Yeah.
I love watching Cyrus play. Um, he is a master at what he does, and he finds a way to win through a lot of situations. I enjoy his Twitter feed because it's just like turn 1, Delver player has 7 counter spells in hand. Turn 4, Cyrus wins the game. It's just like, how did he do it? How did he
Yeah, he
win?
posts this stuff all the time, right? It's like, okay, so my opponent in the first turn, he had like Chalice on 1, Ether Swan Canonist, then he got a Trinity Sphere, and he revealed 4 Mindbreak Traps from his hand, and Search Eclipse my Infernal Tutors. I won on the second turn. Like, what? This guy is amazing. So yeah, I think we're gonna set up with the players, and then we're gonna be right back for our penultimate match. So stick around, and we'll see you for the next match soon.